Across this exposed strait, wind, waves, and shipping traffic turned every offshore operation into a high-risk engineering challenge. Before construction could advance, crews had to hold every vessel precisely against constantly shifting wind, current, and tide. Engineers first mapped the seabed in detail, tracing depths, slopes, and obstacles along the proposed route across Øresund. Marine drilling then revealed the limestone beneath the strait, determining where the tunnel, trench, and bridge foundations could safely rest. Each recovered core was measured and classified, turning hidden geology into the data required for the final structural design. Instruments recorded waves, currents, and tidal changes, defining the narrow weather windows available for future marine construction. At the same time, shipping surveys protected the navigation channel that had to remain open throughout the entire construction period. The final solution combined a submerged tunnel, the artificial island Peberholm, and a cable-stayed bridge across the navigation channel. With the alignment verified and the seabed understood, survey crews cleared the route for the first major excavation works. Construction began by dredging a continuous trench through the seabed along the future Drogden tunnel alignment. Massive dredging equipment removed sand, clay, and harder layers while survey crews controlled the trench depth. Excavated material was loaded onto barges and transported away, keeping the active marine corridor clear. Where harder ground resisted ordinary dredging, heavier cutting equipment broke the seabed into removable material. Each excavation pass was checked against the design profile to prevent the trench from becoming too deep. Crews then placed a carefully graded foundation layer across the bottom of the excavated tunnel trench. Stone placement equipment spread the material in controlled strips, creating a stable bed for the concrete elements. Survey vessels repeatedly measured elevation and alignment as the prepared foundation advanced beneath the water. With the trench excavated and leveled, the seabed was ready to receive the first immersed tunnel element. Inside the casting basin, dense reinforcement and heavy formwork defined the full cross-section of each tunnel element. Concrete was poured in carefully controlled stages, creating watertight road, railway, and service compartments within one enormous structure. After curing, engineers inspected every joint, surface, and dimension before the element was permitted to leave the basin. Temporary bulkheads, rubber gaskets, ballast systems, and towing equipment prepared the completed element for its journey offshore. Tugboats then moved the floating tunnel element slowly toward the prepared trench during a tightly controlled weather window. Above the installation site, guide cables and survey vessels positioned the element precisely over the trench alignment. Winches lowered the massive structure evenly until it approached the prepared gravel foundation beneath the strait. Hydraulic equipment pulled the new element against the previous section, compressing the gasket into a watertight joint. Once the joint was dewatered, external water pressure locked both tunnel elements firmly together on the seabed. Crews placed graded backfill along both sides of the immersed element, locking it securely within the trench. Protective rock was then added above the structure to resist currents, anchors, and future seabed movement. Survey teams checked settlement and alignment before the installation cycle could continue with the next element. Another tunnel section was towed into position, repeating the same sequence of alignment, lowering, and connection. Element by element, the submerged structure advanced across the Drogden Channel beneath active shipping routes. Inside the completed sections, crews removed temporary bulkheads and opened the continuous road and railway passages. Mechanical, electrical, and drainage systems were installed through the tunnel's separate traffic and service compartments. Fire protection, ventilation, and emergency access systems turned the concrete shell into a functional transport tunnel. At the eastern end, the immersed tunnel connected with the rising land section beneath the future island of Peberholm. While tunnel work progressed, construction crews began creating an entirely new island in the middle of the strait. Millions of cubic meters of dredged material were transported and placed to form the future island of Peberholm. Bulldozers and earth-moving equipment spread the material in controlled layers across the emerging landmass. Rock revetments protected the new shoreline from waves, currents, and long-term erosion. Survey teams continuously checked elevations and boundaries as the island gradually expanded above sea level. Separate corridors were reserved for both the motorway and the railway crossing the future island. Drainage systems and ground improvement works prepared the reclaimed land for permanent infrastructure. At the western edge, the tunnel alignment transitioned toward the future bridge approaches. With Peberholm established, attention shifted toward the long approach bridges extending across the strait. Construction of the western approach bridges began with offshore foundation works across the shallow waters of Øresund. Dredging crews prepared foundation locations, while marine survey teams verified every position along the bridge alignment. Massive prefabricated caissons were transported offshore and guided toward their designated foundation sites. Floating equipment lowered the first caisson carefully onto the prepared seabed foundation. Divers and survey engineers confirmed the caisson position before permanent ballast operations could begin. Ballast material gradually increased the foundation weight, locking the structure securely onto the seabed. Protective rock was placed around the perimeter to prevent scour caused by waves and currents. Additional caisson foundations followed in sequence as the approach bridge alignment expanded across the strait. With the foundations completed, crews were ready to begin constructing the concrete bridge piers above them. Svanen lowered the first approach pier caisson toward 3 prepared bearing pads on the seabed. After touchdown, grout was injected beneath the caisson, while controlled ballast transferred the load permanently to the foundation. Graded backfill and scour protection rock were then placed around the caisson to secure it against currents and erosion. The prefabricated pier shaft was lowered vertically onto the completed caisson, with survey crews controlling alignment. Once seated, the shaft connection was grouted and locked with temporary restraints before the lifting system was released. Crews then built the widened pier head, placing reinforcement, formwork, and concrete for the future bearing seats. The same construction cycle was repeated along the alignment until a continuous line of completed approach piers emerged. Svanen then lifted the first double-deck approach span and lowered it carefully between 2 completed piers. After seating on the bearings, workers secured the span, checked alignment, and prepared the first permanent connections. Svanen returned to install the next approach span, extending the bridge 1 section farther across the strait. The span settled onto its bearings, while crews aligned joints, installed splice plates, and secured temporary restraints. Span by span, the western approach bridge advanced steadily toward the future high bridge section. Behind the erection front, workers completed structural connections, welding operations, and permanent bolted joints. Closure pores, drainage systems, and railway trough connections transformed separate spans into one continuous structure. The final western approach span was lifted into position, completing the last major gap before the navigation channel. Attention then shifted to the future cable-stayed bridge, where engineers prepared the massive pylon foundation sites. A purpose-built catamaran system transported a 19,000-ton foundation caisson toward the high bridge work zone. Using synchronized strand jacks, crews began lowering the enormous caisson toward its prepared limestone foundation. The massive pylon caisson completed its final descent and transferred its weight onto the prepared limestone foundation. Crews injected structural grout beneath the caisson, filling the thin interface and creating a continuous load-bearing base. Permanent ballast was added while the lifting catamaran gradually released its cables and prepared to move away. Scour rock and heavy collision protection units were placed around the foundation to defend it from currents and ships. climbing formwork then raised the two reinforced concrete pylon legs through a repeated cycle of steel fixing and casting. Between the rising legs, crews assembled massive falsework and reinforcement for the lower structural crossbeam. Concrete pumps filled the crossbeam formwork while engineers monitored alignment, pressure, and temporary support movement. Above the completed crossbeam, both pylon legs continued upward through successive controlled concrete lifts. Near the top, steel anchor boxes were installed to receive the stay cables that would eventually support the main span. The first main span deck segment was lifted into position beside the completed pylon, beginning the high bridge itself. The first stay cable pair was then installed and tensioned, transferring part of the deck load directly into the pylon. Balanced cantilever construction expanded from both sides of the tower, keeping the structure stable as new segments were added. Each cycle combined one deck segment lift, one structural connection, and a carefully controlled stay cable adjustment. The cantilevers extended farther over the navigation channel, but a wide central gap still separated the two erection fronts. From opposite pylons, the growing deck sections approached mid-span under continuous survey and cable force monitoring. The final closure segment was lifted into the remaining gap and aligned between the two cantilever ends. Once connected, crews locked the mid-span joints and retuned selected stay cables to balance the completed structure. With the central span closed, the high bridge reached full structural continuity, ready for road and railway finishing. Crews prepared the upper motorway deck with repairs, primer, and waterproofing before the first asphalt layers could be placed. Protective asphalt and the final wearing course were laid in stages, then compacted to create the permanent road surface. Barriers, drainage, lighting, and expansion joints were installed to complete the bridge's essential motorway systems. On the lower level, workers installed rails, maintenance walkways, drainage lines, and permanent cable systems. Catenary, power equipment, and final track alignment prepared the railway for technical commissioning. Engineers then inspected every major system, from stay cables and bearings to roadway drainage and railway geometry. Static load tests used stationary trucks and railway loads to measure how the bridge responded under controlled weight.
Convoy synchronization confirmed.
Final commissioning tested road, rail, electrical, communication, and emergency systems before operational handover. Temporary equipment was removed, construction areas were cleaned, and the completed link entered its final walkdown. The completed Øresund Fixed Link finally united bridge, island, and tunnel into one continuous road and rail connection between Denmark and Sweden.